Yeah.
So, welcome to Heist. I'm Bradley Hackworth, joined by Mr. Ems, otherwise known by Doc.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to
And
start
how
today
we
off
know
with
each other is an epic story in and of itself that we may have to do like a special episode of someday.
that. Actually, is yeah. They recommend do a video, introduce yourself, tell your potential audience who you are, what you're doing.
Hmm. Like
That would be a
a
big one to
saved
do.
one to put one on there for newcomers and stuff like that, right?
Yep. So if you
Yeah,
put
yeah.
that up on YouTube for new subscribers, once they watch the video is gone.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
I like that they do it that way. I thought that was really
Yeah,
smart.
yeah.
So the first video or the first movie that we're going to be discussing today is Dutch.
Well, and let's talk a little bit since we're doing it. The premise here is that um, Brad and I basically assign movies to each other,
Mm-hmm.
movies that the other person generally hasn't seen. We're probably going to run out pretty quickly because we've both seen so many goddamn movies that finding ones that the other person hasn't seen is taking some work already, and we're only in the third episode. So that's
However, I
what
am
we're doing.
already very excited for next week.
Oh yeah, okay, we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he assigned me to watch the John Hughes not quite classic Dutch.
What'd you think?
And I'm gonna be honest with you, man, I didn't care for it.
Not every movie is for everybody.
Yeah, I mean it was I mean the interesting thing is it kind of reminded me just this last holiday season as part of the family holiday movie marathon. I revisited Trains, Planes, and Automobiles,
Good one.
which yeah, kind of I can't wait. That's a John Hughes one too, right? No,
I'm not positive. I'm not going to say one
no,
way
I
or
don't. I
another.
don't think it. I don't think it is. But it's very much in the same vein. There was that sort of like unstructured kind of idea. You have an idea which is mainly characters. You have these characters, and then it kind of seems like you're making up the scenarios as you go along. As you're making the movie, like while you're going, like, hey, by the way, just out of nowhere, here's an idea. What if we just have a bit where he tries to set off fireworks in the middle of a farm for no just to try to entertain the kid, and we're not even going to give him any dialogue. This is going to all be physical comedy,
Mm-hmm.
and the only dialogue we're going to set it up. We're gonna spend 5 minutes just to set this up and let it go. But that clearly isn't what happened because there's no way they could have done that much work with the fireworks if it hadn't been pre-scripted. Like the way he had like the whirligig one chasing him around the freaking yard. That's
Mm-hmm.
not something you improv. That was probably like a 2-day shoot with the whole special effects crew.
Maybe.
But it all came off as something that was just kind of like it was, we got to put something here. He's going to try something. This is a story about a big dumb. We're going to kind of sort of imply he might be a mobster, but not really confirm it or deny it.
Oh,
Dude
I never
trying.
thought that. I never saw that at all. What?
No,
Which?
really?
What? Ed? Ed O'Neill?
Yeah.
No, I
The
didn't. I
way.
didn't pick that up at all.
Oh, yeah. No, it was very subtle stuff. Like, how he's like, when he's like about to leave to go pick up the kid, and he calls in from the airport to basically tell his crew, I'm gonna be incommunicado, so make sure you call like these two guys if they need anything. And the two guys are like, Dino and Shorty are the ones he's telling to be are in charge now. And so I mean, I imagine he's probably, I don't know if he's mobbed up, but he's like, I'm guessing he works construction and has friends, as the saying goes.
I didn't read it like that. I just saw that as, you know what, man. Look, I'm giving my full dedication over here. You're not going to be able to reach me. Contact like the next in command. Like I just thought it
Mm.
was like a chain of command thing. Like he's the managing supervisor. They're the supervisors, or however that structure goes. I
And
didn't
yeah,
I didn't see that. But I don't know. John Hughes does throw random little bits into some things like that.
That's the thing is like and I think that's what's interesting about his movies is that his movies are less about the situation and more character studies. And
Hmm.
so I imagine there was probably some building up of what Ed O'Neill wanted to do with this character as they were making the movie. And that does kind of that's kind of what I'm talking about. There's a lack of structure where it was like that scene where he's sitting there at the like at the phone booth flying in to go pick up the kid. There it was an unnecessary thing, but they needed to kind of like transition it, in a sort of way. And so he's sitting there at the phone booth with his little notebook, going like, okay, here's this and this. You can't call me, give it to Shorty and Gino, and it was almost a throwaway scene, but it was there to set up his like transition, whatever. And to a certain degree, you're right, to basically explain why this guy never has to call in to work the whole time he's running around with the kid. It's because he already did that. But it was also it was a haphazardly done scene, almost as if they went like, oh shit, we need to have something that explains this. Quick, jump out of the cab and run into the mall here. We'll film you talking on the phone
Hmm.
booth there, and we'll pretend it's the airport. Um, and a lot of the movie felt like that, and it just kind of reminded me that there was a lot of movies that felt like that at the time. Nothing wrong with them, but I just personally feel they don't age well. They kind of
I
they
couldn't
serve
track down a
they're they're
copy of. Sorry, go ahead.
they're basically they're junk food movies. They're you like them, everybody's into them, but you once you're full, you're not putting it in the fridge to microwave later. It's going in the garbage. It served its purpose. It's not going to get any better tomorrow. So, and that was kind of how I felt about it. I was kind of, I don't know, I was mostly bored, occasionally disappointed by it. Um, the overall theme of the movie seemed to be uh, some kids have the child abuse coming. and but there was a lot of movies in the 80s and 90s that had that theme to them. There were a
That
lot a
actually, yeah.
lot of quote unquote comedies and even occasional horror stories that were basically like, no, some kids need a beating. Like a real beating. um and
A
yeah,
lot of people still say that to this day.
no, it's very true. Yes, that's very true.
And honestly, I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm not one of those guys because I am one of those guys. There are certain people that I've met and I'm like, you're a full grown adult and you've never been punched in the face and
No,
suffered a
yes,
physical consequence.
there
Like,
there are
it is
definitely
very
people in
obvious.
this world that have not been punched enough in life. That is true. I agree. um
Right.
I
And this
feel
kid
though,
was an absolute nightmare.
no, yeah, well, that's the thing is my favorite character to near the beginning
It,
was
yeah.
the kid that in the school with him, who was going to tell him that your mom's on the phone. That kid, I was on his side the whole way. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's just sitting there going like, look, shithead, do you want the phone call or not? Like if that kid had punched him, or hit him with a hockey stick, that would have been okay. That's not child abuse. That's basic sociology right there. Ed
So, like I said,
O'Neill beating him with a hockey stick, different. It
di-
goes down differently.
was that a scene?
No, wait, sorry. No, he didn't beat him with the hockey stick. He tied him to a hockey stick and carried him out of the school.
Which is the poster that we're looking
Right.
at right here.
Yes, I remembered that from the trailer too. When that scene came up, I was like, oh right, I remember seeing the trailers to this movie. Yeah.
Uh, hmm. So, like I said, I wasn't able to track down, even on Amazon Prime, I couldn't rent this. It wasn't available in my region. I
Really?
couldn't, yeah, I could not track down a copy of this film to rewatch. I haven't seen this since maybe very early 2000s.
Okay.
So, my memory on this one is a little bit fuzzy, and I'm going to have to work around that. Um, Remember Shooter McGavin playing the stepdad? It was perfect as that.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, he was good, and he was a yeah. He's always been very good at playing an asshole.
Absolutely.
He's played a smarmy asshole. He's made a career out of playing the smarmy asshole.
Well, there's
Um,
potential for him being Norman Osborn in the MCU.
Perfect.
I think so too. I
Yeah.
think that would be phenomenal casting.
Yep.
Like
Uh,
he knows how to bring it and he knows how to chew the scenery, but he also knows how to dial it in and be a very subtle bad guy. I think that
Absolutely.
that would be a great casting decision for that if that rumor actually turns out to be
Right.
true. Um,
Speaking of casting, there were a couple of things that kind of took me by surprise because I did, there were some, like the kid, for instance. At first time I'm watching this, I'm thinking this kid's terrible. Like I did not buy him at all. Um, but again, that's John Hughes movies. I mean, if you watch Uncle Buck, Macaulay Culkin doesn't isn't convincing in that one at all. I think for all
no,
the
he's
kid
barely emotes in that movie.
yeah, for all the kids movies that John Hughes makes, he's kind of terrible at directing kids. He kind of puts them for he kind of deliberately makes them look like bad actors. Um
I see that. Actually, now
but
that you mentioned John Hughes and filming kids, does he hate children?
I think he does. I think John Hughes straight up hates children. I think that is the message of all the John Hughes movies put together is fuck these kids.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I I do. Can you remind me of what Ed O'Neill's character's name was in this? Just so I'm not calling him by so I can actually refer him to by his character.
He was Dutch. He was Dutch Dooley. The kid's name
That was
was
dumb. That was real stupid. That
the
was
kid's name
real
was
dumb of me.
the kid's name was Darren, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
I do
I
want to
I,
throw like two hit
I thought the
two.
kid's name was Dutch when I watched the trailers.
That actually does kind of make sense. That would have
Yeah.
made sense. I threw a lot of credit to Dutch, the character,
Hmm.
because that kid kept testing him and kept testing him and kept testing him. And there were some lines
Yeah.
that the kid crossed, and I'm like, I don't know if I wouldn't have beat that kid.
No, yeah, they really this kid really like, well, especially the scene where he steals the car and
Yep,
leaves it
I
in
was
the
thinking about
middle
that.
of the road to be hit by a semi trailer, so that and yeah, no, like that crossed and to Ed O'Neill's to Dutch the character's credit, like he said so. He was like, you could like he's like, that truck driver could have gotten killed when he hit the car that you put in front of him. You're lucky as hell that I was able to sweet talk the cops into not dragging your dumb ass away. Doesn't matter that you're a kid. You go in for manslaughter for this one. Like, he
See,
laid into the kid.
that was one of the main things that I really appreciated about the character Dutch,
Hmm.
is when you see him with the mom, when you see him with the dad, when you see him talking to coworkers, he is a responsible, caring, moral-driven character,
Hmm.
and there was never a time where there was something that was missed every single step along the way. Even when they got in the car and they wound up catching a ride with those hookers, and like he found that out and stuff like that, the wheels turning in his head, he's like, oh god, what position did I just put this kid into?
Yeah.
Like he was never a bad guy. He was like doing everything he could to be a goofball and connect with this kid and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And as a kid, because I saw this as a kid, and I hadn't, my mom hadn't remarried yet, and so I saw this kind of stepdad and all this, and he kind of rocked it in my eyes as what kind of stepdad I like. Hardworking, has his
Hmm.
stuff together, is not afraid to be a goofball and make some laughs, and put himself on the line to bond and create this connection and to work for the mom and all this stuff.
Right.
Like every single step of the way. Like as I was watching, like I remember as I'm thinking about this, I remember watching that and going, "That's the kind of man I want to be." Not too
I did.
serious, but
Yeah, and I
go
did
ahead. Go ahead.
appreciate like some. Well, I thought it was interesting. They kind of the introduction to him and their relationship. What I did appreciate, the one part in the movie that truly made me laugh out loud was at the beginning when he's having that conversation with her. Like, do you want me to go pick him up? I can go get him, and he's making dinner for her. He's chopping up the chicken. He's making this, chop all the ingredients, throwing it into the pot and everything, and just being like Mr. Like, I am so your guy. I'm offering to take care of your kid. I'm getting dinner ready. Like I'm Mr. Domestic. And then immediately cut to they're in a restaurant together eating dinner because whatever the hell it was he just made didn't work.
Yep.
And and they're still having the okay, you can go go pick him up in
But that can
wherever
completely
school.
set up the movie.
That and that made me laugh out loud. That I thought that was pretty smooth. But I thought it was interesting how because they introduced his character in the very beginning without really introducing him,
Mm-hmm.
like, she says the line, "You'll know him when you see him," and immediately cuts to him just sitting out in the balcony being Ed O'Neill, like smoking a cigar, not talking to anybody, not doing anything. And then, he has a small altercation with like the family dog because, and then when he gets inside, he's just like, yeah, I don't eat caviar. And everyone's just looking at like it was very low key shit. Like I didn't
You missed it.
Hmm?
He was the only one. I remember that. He was the only, like, everybody else was in like a nice suit and stuff like that. He was in there with flannel.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it was closer to denim than flannel. But yeah,
I can't remember, but
saying.
it was like
Yeah.
like when they say like you'll recognize he physically is dressed like if they're all to the nines, he's at like a 6.7.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's true. I get that. But that was kind of I got it what they were doing. It didn't feel like a character introduction. Like he didn't have any real lines besides, like, hey, how you doing? Until, later on when he does the whole like, hey, if you hurt her, I'll hit you so hard your dog will bleed. Like that was his first real line. And and he's been on screen for a good 10 minutes at this point, which I'm like, okay.
Was it the dog bleed or was it the ring?
The ring came at the end of the movie.
No, I know that's where he paid that off, but he set it up earlier.
I'm pretty sure the line was, I'll hit you so hard your dog will bleed, is what he said.
So was he telling a story about he punched a guy so hard that he left a dent of his ring in the guy?
Oh, that he said to the kid later on.
Yeah, and then he does that to the dad at the end. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
No, when he threatens the ex-husband, he's much more direct. He's
okay,
which I thought was an odd one. I'll hit you so hard your dog will bleed. That's Tank Girl. He's not. But
no.
But yeah, I mean, it's not one of John Hughes's best works. But I did find interesting. Like I said, on the subject of the cast, I can say for sure that this kid is a good actor because I have seen him as an adult.
Oh, is he?
Have you seen the Netflix TV show Grace and Frankie?
Not yet, but I do want to.
It is quite good. He plays one of Lily Tomlin's sons in that show.
Oh.
And he's quite good. And so the fact that he's not good in this movie, I think, is John Hughes's fault, obviously.
Or just an early credit. I mean, not everybody's Alexis Bledel and walks on and just immediately goes to Gilmore Girls. And
no, that's very true.
Yes, she did get better, but it wasn't marginally it wasn't crazy better. She was actually just kind of a natural talent.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's see.
And also, the whole time that they were in the car with the prostitutes, it was bugging me. I kept thinking I recognized one of them. Turns out I did. I looked her up. The one that's driving, you got the hooker
Blonde
in the back
brunette.
seat.
That's all I remember.
She'd be the blonde.
Okay.
The blonde one. First of all, turns out, she was the voice of Buttercup in the Powerpuff Girls. For starters, that
Wait a minute.
I was like,
wait a minute. Which color was Buttercup? Is that green?
She's the green one. Yep.
So then wasn't she also Tommy Pickles?
No, that would be Bubbles, the blue one. The voice of
Damn.
Bubbles is the voice of Tommy Pickles. That's
Okay.
Tara Strong is her name.
That Tara Strong,
Yeah,
as in Harley Quinn and
all the same person. Yes.
good job, Tara.
I know. Yeah,
Wow.
she's a mutant of some kind that can just, like Mystique, except just her voice. But
Honestly,
also on
dude.
top of that, this was the one that really blew me away. She's also Dottie from Pee Wee's Big Adventure.
Okay, is Tara Strong immortal? Because I just
No,
saw a
no, no.
video of her
E.G.
like the.
No, E.G. Daily. That's not Tara Strong.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. I was about to say like because I just saw a video of Tara Strong and she still looks like she's 24.
No, yeah, that's true. But she is immortal. Because she does. Yes, you're right. She does still look. She's 24.
Which is
Yeah, no,
crazy.
the two hookers in the car in Dutch, the driver, the blonde, she was also Dottie
Okay.
in Pee Wee's Big Adventure. So Elizabeth Daly is her name, and so that's where we've seen her before.
All right, gotcha.
Yep.
So where I said this movie, it's not quite family friendly. It is. It's like it is a family movie, but it's not family friendly all the way. Like but that is
It's
the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, there was always like one or two getaway with free card kind of thing with those. Like nowadays you
Quite
can get it
literally free card.
exactly. Yes, in this one. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got a. I mean, shit. Uh,
I
I
think
got.
we all had a deck of those back in the 90s.
Yeah, but also like I'm thinking like movies wise, like I'm surprised that some of the
Hmm.
movies that only had PG-13 ratings that my parents took me to when I was like
Yep.
10, 11 years old, and then we never spoke of again.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
um, but yeah, it's that was the other is like I was kind of surprised. Like there were a couple of moments where I was like, boy, Ed O'Neill is really holding back and not cussing this kid out. We had one shithead at the beginning. You got the one playing card with the pair of titties on it, and that's it. Other than that, this is a ready for broadcast, clean movie. Even when it truly calls for absolute profanity, there are moments where there you would it would it's unrealistic at how not
Nope.
cussing out this kid is.
Disagree. Heavily
Really.
disagree. That is the first time meeting your girl's child. That fucker gets away with everything.
I don't know.
Then you go back and you ask his mom, "What am I allowed to do?" honestly, that I I don't know any difference. I like probably different from Ed O'Neill. At a certain point, I would have shut the fuck up and not said another word for the rest of the trip, and I would have
Just not
just
said
told.
anything.
Yep, I would have told
Because
him
you
like,
knew,
"Dude,
because you knew if
mm,
you did open your mouth, it'd be a string of curse words, and so it's like we're going
yep,
silent. Yeah. Okay. All right.
yep." So where I can't say it's not I can't say it's unrealistic because I'm pretty sure that's basically exactly how that would go if I were in that situation.
I
Might
see.
be
Okay.
unrealistic for somebody else, but specifically for me, that is basically how that would go. And I loved after uh after the car crash
Mm-hmm.
when they wound up in the homeless shelter and the kid
Right.
is just getting humbled after getting humbled and seeing different walks of life, different
Yeah.
experiences. Then a homeless family helps them out and puts them in a position. And then in turn, Ed O'Neill, Dutch, he turns around and he's like, "Hey man, you help me out, contact this person, we'll get you a job." We'll get, like, there's like
Oh yeah.
not,
Totally. Yeah.
he is a top tier, he is a gentleman.
Yeah.
Like
No, that's true.
he is a like where I would say it is like when I came to the city, I was a country boy,
Mm-hmm.
very well mannered, very kind. Don't push me too far. Like, I was very, very nice to everybody. I was very kind to everybody. I didn't say a bad word to anybody. But there was that day that my cousin and I were walking down the street, and some jackass came up behind her and started like walking and humping her and everything like
Oh.
that. At about that point, nobody in that state had ever seen what was about to come out of me.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what I got from, and that's what I got out of Dutch. He was a good dude. I'm not saying I'm a good dude. I say I try.
Right.
But he, like, that character was a good dude.
Okay. And
Like,
I can agree with that. I mean, I kind of got
totally missed the
Ron.
mafia. Like, that never even crossed my mind.
See, everything about, like, if you take out the actual, like, I don't. I mean, I'd have to watch it again and, like, start taking specific notes. But
I
that
don't
was
think you're ever
my.
gonna watch this again.
No, I'm not, and that's why I'm saying I'm just gonna have to
Yeah.
go off my gut on this one. But yeah, that was the vibe I was getting the whole time, was that he was in some way, maybe not a family member or something, but he was
Connected.
mobbed up in some way, because yeah, I mean, like, especially the whole, like, like, because even the whole, very much like, you did me a favor here, here's a card, I'll give you a job. And even, like, going back to with the guy with the semi truck that crashed the car, like, he managed to get the cops to walk away from that. He got the truck driver to walk away from it, and he even said, "Look, if there's anything else you need." They made a big deal too about showing him his card. I expected the way the camera followed him handing him his card. I expected the truck driver to look at it and go like, "Oh, you're that guy. Oh, no problem, sir." Like, that's what I thought the truck driver was going to do.
I was kind
The
of
way they did that.
expecting that as well, but I was expecting it in a very different way.
Mm.
Like, I thought that Dutch was maybe like the Donald Trump of the construction world. Like, just like everybody knew who he was. Like, he came up from nothing, and everybody knew, like, who he was.
Yep.
That's why they're like, oh, you're that. Yeah, man. I don't want to, like, this is a fucked up situation, but no, I know who
Right.
you are. I don't want to fuck, like. Yeah, I guess that is a lot more open than I realized.
And maybe, well, it's like you said, you saw it as a kid. How many mob movies were you watching as a kid? Would you have
All
picked
of
up on
them.
those? Okay, so you should have picked up on them. You should have picked up on those tells.
No, that, like,
This was
mafia
what,
movies, horror movies, those were my absolute jam when I was like
this was
12.
91 when this came out. Was Goodfellas out by then? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you should have known. You should have known.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see. Loved this. I loved the final scene.
The final scene was good.
Just the,
I
like.
kind of
Go ahead.
felt like there should have been more build up on that. I mean, they didn't come out of left field. I'll give them that. Where they've got the scene where he's having it out with Dutch, and Dutch is telling him, like, I can tell you hate your mom, and then the kid kind of starts to lose it there. Like, has she ever had said that she thinks I hate her? Like kind of getting a little emotional on that. Um, but it did kind of, I don't know, it did feel like a little quick of a turnaround from. And yeah, I get that's the point of the whole, like, it's them sleeping in the homeless shelter and him, like, talking to the family and stuff like that. That was supposed to be his humbling moment, but it felt like his turnaround from fighting this tooth and nail to try to get back to his terrible dad, to all of a sudden walking past his terrible dad to go hug his mom when he comes in the door. I would have liked a little more build up to that than we got.
I actually agree with that. I actually do agree with that. I thought that was a little bit too much, but after what we've discussed, now I'm not so sure.
If you piece it
Because
together, they are
the car
there. The moment,
crash, like, that is a big moment.
yeah,
Not just the car crash, but he stood by and watched Dutch's reaction.
yeah,
I think what happened when he watched Dutch and everything like that, and he saw the look on his face, and when Dutch came over, it was not about Dutch, it was about him.
Yeah.
Like that. I would imagine that would be a big moment, a big
It
personal moment.
there had to be, and they did kind of, to their credit, they did kind of clue into it because the kid looked more upset than he should. He didn't look
But he was still
satisfied.
he was still being a little bitch.
Yeah, he
He was scared, he was sad, but he was still saying the words.
yeah, he was still saying, now we're even and that's on you, but he didn't
See, but
have
that
as
and
much.
that was a good acting moment. That because that kid, you like he
Yeah.
was like, because I remember being there when I was a kid. You have
Hmm.
you have what you want to say and everything like that, and you're trying everything you can to be a man, but you're just shaking and you're like, I'm so emotional and I just and you're
Yeah.
just all like racked up and everything like that. But you're just everything you have, and that's his. He's like, now we're even. Like
Right.
that was like I remember that moment pretty damn well, and I haven't seen the movie in over 20 years. Like that, I gotta give
It
the
was a
kid
pretty
like that was a good
that
scene.
was a memorable moment. There are I mean, I guess that's the thing, is there are moments in this movie where it almost becomes a great film, but yeah, it like I said, I was just kind of mostly bored and unimpressed most of the time because I feel like there wasn't, I don't know. I guess like I said, it seems like it seemed like John Hughes didn't have anything he wanted to say here except fuck these kids, but and then the rest of it was just sort of like character study, like what happens when you drop a working class Chicago dude in the middle of a high class Washington family, at a party kind of thing. I imagine John Hughes probably can speak to that to a certain degree. I think, being the
Don't know
fact
enough
that
about him.
I don't know enough about him either, but I imagine he probably was very much a schlub who, once he became a famous Hollywood director, probably felt very out of place at all those hoity-toity parties. Um, so, I imagine that there's probably a little personal experience with that. I mean, I've never seen any interviews with him. I couldn't even tell you what John Hughes looks like. I don't think I've ever even seen a picture of him. But based
I
on the
couldn't.
movies he makes, um, he strikes me as someone who comes from a kind of lower to middle class kind of suburban life, which may not be super working class, but is enough to really feel out of place if you're like been invited to a party in the Hollywood Hills or something like that.
Yeah,
So that's probably
I've been in that particular situation, and I did not belong there.
right.
Like
Yeah. So
I tried to make it seem like I did. I tried to like whatever. I even like I was even just being myself and just trying to talk. Every single word that came out of my mouth was met with.
right. Yep.
I'm
Exactly.
like,
Yep.
I don't speak your language. I don't get it. Why did you invite me to this house?
Right. And so yeah, and I think that's probably maybe that probably was it. Maybe it wasn't so much that he had anything to say. He was just trying to kind of put a bunch of sort of general feelings into pictures and words. And this is what he got. This is what he got. He got Ed O'Neill doing a pretty good job with a character. He got a kid doing a pretty good job with a character. Um, we didn't get enough of the mom, I don't think.
I
Like I don't,
agree.
her role in all of this was pretty pivotal, and she was kind of kept to the sidelines the whole time. And I think that's probably because most of this movie was being told from John Hughes's point of view, who, I think, Dutch being his stand-in of like, I may not know what's going on, but I know what's important, and that's what I'm going to do.
Hmm.
Like your mom wants you at Thanksgiving dinner for your sake because she knows otherwise you're going to be sitting there alone because your dad's a piece of shit. And even though I don't like you and I don't like doing this and I don't get it, I'm going to drag your dumb ass there for her. And I think that was probably, I imagine that probably was, indicative of a lot of John Hughes's relationships, and that was what we saw in this movie.
That's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it's a bad movie. That's kind of, I think I'm being unfair here when I say I didn't care for it. There was nothing particularly wrong with it. Um,
It's another
it
one of
just,
those just sit back and it's
right.
playing and
If
yeah.
it was, you know, the year 1999 and it was Saturday afternoon and I was channel surfing, I would probably stop on this movie and watch it to the end and then move on with my life and probably not even mention it to anybody else. But I would
I
be,
think that's pretty much how that went
yeah,
down for me.
yeah.
That's almost about the exact time frame that I would have seen this because I think this might have been one of the when I was like 12 to 14, I was just addicted to TBS. That's what was on all the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Every movie that it was on there, TBS and WGN. I watched every movie that came across there. That was, I don't know, that just fell into my genre for some reason.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Uh, well, do you have anything else that you wanted to say on Dutch?
Let me think here. Let's see. We covered Elizabeth Daily. We covered the kid. Um, no, I think that completes my thoughts on Dutch.
All right, so we finished up covering Dutch, and we are now moving on to the haven't you seen this section of Heist, which is going to be The Paper, a 1994 film by Ron Howard, written by David Koepp. Do you know what else David Koepp has wrote?
No, actually, wow, that's crazy.
I had fun with this one. War of
Yeah.
the Worlds, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, Ghost Town, Jurassic Park, Stir of Echoes. Oh, and he also directed Stir of Echoes, which I really like
Ooh,
that movie.
yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. So David Koepp. I should have looked up how to pronounce your name. I apologize that I didn't. So this movie, The Paper, starring Michael Keaton, Glenn Close, Robert Duvall, Marissa Tomei, Catherine O'Hara, Randy Quaid, and Jason Alexander.
Catherine O'Hara and Jason Alexander are guest stars in this one.
I will absolutely agree with that. However, there's no way I'm not throwing their names in there. Okay. One there so when I watched it the first time, I knew this actor, but I feel bad that I actually didn't know her name. Roma Mafia.
Roma Mafia. Shoot, that is is she the photographer? Is that who you're talking about?
No, not the photographer. Actually, I don't know what her job was. She if we were if we were on a film production, she would have been a line producer, but I don't know what her job was in the newsroom.
Huh.
Like, but she did pop in. So the scene where we'll get there.
Okay.
But yeah, no, she like. Did you ever watch Nip Tuck?
No, never saw that one.
She was in almost every episode of Nip Tuck, and
Okay.
that was where I mainly know her from. So the opening sequence of The Paper, almost a misdirect, but it actually isn't. So when we start the movie, the cold open, it's what the movie is about, but it is not the movie.
Right. Exactly.
Which so you have it's almost like an extra scene shown in there just to tell what the movie is actually about. And
That
I
is the interesting thing. We could have gone the whole with like those kids that are introduced in the
didn't need
beginning,
to see them.
and yeah, and we see pieces of them throughout. Like we literally could have gone the whole movie without ever seeing them, and it would have still worked out just fine. Yeah.
It would have, and it was a great inclusion to keep them in there. It showed like right at the beginning, because as the boys are walking past the car, they're like, "Man, look at these guys. They're sleeping. I wouldn't be sleeping in this. Like, should we wake them up? Like, these are good kids.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like they weren't like ruffians or anything like that. That just like if they didn't get busted for that, they got busted for this. No, these were literally like, man, we should wake these guys up. This is not a good neighborhood. They were good kids. Like good inclusion. I enjoyed the clock title sequence, showing up to the back of the 7 and then transforming to the front of the 7 on the watch. I thought that was beautiful.
Yep.
Marissa Tomei from the second she is on, like she is a
Academy Award winner Marissa Tomei. Let's not forget. For a
who
reason.
in this movie doesn't have an Academy Award?
Michael Keaton.
No.
I know. I don't believe it either, but I think he's the only person in this movie that doesn't have an Academy Award, and he is
That
pulling
doesn't
the whole
even
thing
make
together.
sense.
It's weird, right? Yeah.
That is really weird.
Actually, no. I take that back. He got one for Birdman, didn't he? Or was he only nominated? I can't remember if Birdman won.
I don't pay attention to those. I know I should,
Okay.
but I don't pay attention.
Okay. But in this case, Marissa Tomei has already won her My Cousin Vinny.
Yep.
So when she's doing this movie, she is the one who has held the Oscar before anybody else there, except Robert Duvall, of course.
I will say her the pregnant belly that they had her wearing looked incredibly convincing.
Yeah.
I also
Her whole waddle walk while she's
Mhm.
going around, like, holy shit, you really believe that she is like ready to pop at any second.
100%. Um, Absolutely, completely. Uh, Keaton is absolutely delightful from the very second that he starts talking. Like she's fed up, she's sick, like, but she's not actually fed up. She is pregnant and moody, but she 100% knows his life, knows what he does.
Mm-hmm.
She is a part of it. She is the female version of what he does. Like, there's a
Right.
point later in the movie, it's like you do this. I watched you 8.5 months pregnant waddle off to go chase a story.
Right.
Like this, like you totally understand. Like, and
And
I
that's kind of
appreciate
what
that.
and that's what I love about this is that you even see it like later on, like her being a reporter is clearly why they're in love. Like
Mm-hmm.
the one moment where he's not adversarial with her is when she's given him like, here's the scoop I found. And he's literally like, oh, I fucking love
I
you.
love
Like
you. You drive me crazy when you're like this. Like, what are you
yeah,
wearing? Like, yeah.
right, exactly, yeah. And really, and it also at the same time, the entire dynamic of their conflict has to do with the fact that she's stuck at home on maternity leave, not at the paper with him, and it's driving her nuts.
But it's set up immediately. You know that from the
Mm-hmm.
very get go because she starts going like, tell everybody I miss them and
Mm-hmm.
say hi to everybody. Uh, it did not take me long to try to start figuring out whether or not Coca-Cola sponsored this movie.
It doesn't matter. It
Keaton's
doesn't.
Keaton's pure addiction to coke or not cocaine, to Coca-Cola and all of that. In this.
Symbolism is what it is.
Ooh, I missed it, but you're right.
Yeah.
Like he's constantly going after coke. Like
Yes.
shit,
I was
completely
gonna
missed
say,
that.
like that's the thing is that's one of the things I want to talk about is how like most movies you have an A story and a B story. This movie has an A story, a B story, a C story, a D story, an E story, an F story,
Yep.
and the G story is Henry versus Coca-Cola. Because it is a running theme there, not just him needing Coke, him needing to get change for Coke from his coworkers, him trying to find a Coke machine in the building that still has Coke in it. Like there is an epic tale going on just in that one little thing. That's the G story of this movie.
I forgot to mention this earlier, but one of the other major things that David Koepp produced and wrote,
Mm-hmm.
24.
Oh,
An entire series based around what happens in the sequence of one day, which is essentially this movie.
Right. This movie and that's the theme of it. They even do the whole like the radio news. They like in both the beginning and the end,
That's
they're
the thing.
listening
That's
to
what I was
the
talking
radio.
about. Where
Yeah.
the additional scene of the boys is not part of this. Is not part of the story. It's part of this movie, but it's not part of the actual story. The story starts and ends at 7 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Yep, exactly. With the news radio people basically saying because your whole world can change in just 24 hours, and that is the theme of the movie.
I
And
did like that Michael Keaton like set it up. He's like, you ever just like taste that a shit day is coming or something like that?
Yes,
Like,
I loved that.
I enjoyed that.
And my absolute favorite part is how in the course of this 24 hours, everyone's life gets completely upended except for McDougal. McDougal, it's just another Tuesday for him.
I'm gonna get there.
All right, yeah.
So I loved the setting up Sandusky right away at the beginning. The hope in Marissa Tomei's eyes is
Sandusky
unbelievably
is
believable.
Chekhov's gun in this one.
Yes, yes. Just Marissa Tomei and everything that she does. She's talking about the interview, everything like that. she is giving hope, but like you can see it directly in her eyes. She's like, I'm hoping. I know what's gonna happen.
Right.
You see, like she knows. Oh, the performance she brings, and also like about the eyes. Like I didn't write that, but hopefully I remember that later because I want to talk about that with Glenn Close.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, Henry,
Henry.
Henry going through and he's like, yeah, Trump jumped off the top of a building and landed on Madonna. I just kind of sat back. I just kind of sat back with that moment and went, what if?
Oh, come on. Madonna deserves a better out than that. All right. Like
She does. Maybe if he just landed next to her.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Traumatized her. She screamed. Her vocal cords go out. She can never see again. Tragedy, but a better ending.
But by that point, we'd already gotten all the best of Madonna.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Did Madonna ever release anything good after 1994?
Yes, actually. I vaguely recall, and I only know this because I happened to work at a record store at this time, so I was like there when the hype. But the album that she came out with in, I want to say 97 or 98, I can't remember what it's called, was decent. It was decent.
It
wasn't
recollection. I don't know
Madonna, but it was pretty good.
Because at that point we'd like moved to No Doubt and Alanis Morissette and
yeah.
like
those are all well in. Yeah.
Yeah, like we were in a different era of music by that point.
Yeah.
That's why that's definitely why I never listened to her. I was listening to Blink-182 and Green Day.
It was a kind
Metallica.
it was kind of a rebranding, but that was kind of the thing. Madonna rebranded herself every few years, so it wasn't a shock to have another rebranding from her. And I remember at the time even being kind of impressed that when she does rebrand herself, it never is terrible.
Oh.
So, and that I felt that way back then. So, I'm not nearly as clued in on music as I am movies. So I'm very uncomfortable with this route.
That's fair.
Because
That's fair. We can course correct.
If someone disagrees with me on movies, I can go blow for blow. If someone wants to come at me on music, I'm like, I give. Uncle.
Yeah, I do understand that. I will say Roma and Randy Quaid in Keaton's office with Quaid sleeping. Everything about that scene was perfect. You see the wheels and Michael Keaton turning. Like you see the wheels of morality going in there, and that is what I really just Michael Keaton's character drives it all the way home. Okay.
3 foreshadowings in one scene too.
Good call.
Yeah,
very good.
Because we got first foreshadowing, the first mention of Sandusky. Second foreshadowing, he's turning on the police scanner.
Second mention of Sandusky. First was on the news when Marissa Tomei and Keaton were in the kitchen.
Right. But this time it's Sandusky connected to the gun that McDougal's holding.
Yes, very
so
fair.
That's not just a mention of Sandusky, that is a foreshadowing of Sandusky.
Yes.
The second foreshadowing in the same scene is he's turning on the police scanner. And that's how
he picks up the story later on.
Right, that the bust is no good. It's because McDougal heard it on the police scanner. Third foreshadowing is we see the glass of water vibrating from the presses being running downstairs. He goes
foreshadow. Let Marissa Tomei and Michael Keaton talk.
Yes.
Love that scene so damn much. That killed me. Second on the second watch, that was one of the ones I was waiting for.
And that's what was brilliant too, is that we got that sort of misdirect. It was a misdirect almost, because remember, as we all know, and we see coming, it's the Chekhov's gun rule, like I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all set up to think that the actual gun that McDougal has is Chekhov's gun, and we're tricked into thinking that it's now over. It's already paid off because of that. It's a total misdirect. Sandusky is Chekhov's gun, and he's coming later in a big way.
Oh, yes. And also, it got a laugh out of me the first time, but the second time I watched it, I was dying. Okay, let's see. Okay, Robert Duvall's intro scene, dropping the prostate cancer hint and immediately
Mhm.
saying, like, my prostate's the size of a bagel.
Right.
That
Yeah.
was a good setup for what Michael Keaton does later. But, like, immediately going from there, he's like, are you joining me? Like, he's going up to the roof to have a cigarette, even though he's already showing signs of prostate cancer or
Right.
he already has it. The rooftop scene was a fantastic view of New York.
Yeah. Yep.
They used to include the World Trade Center into everything. And
Everything.
I forgot about that because that just stopped when I was 14.
Yep.
Like
They
that
don't.
just
They don't. They don't even. They don't bother showing the whole New York skyline most of the time. You might get a shot of the Statue of Liberty, and that's it.
sure.
Yep.
But most times now it's an altered version of the New York skyline with different buildings added in through CGI.
Right. Yep.
Which, yeah, it's very weird to see the World Trade Center because it takes you to a certain spot.
Yep.
So on the rooftop where Michael Keaton is asking for advice and he wants Robert Duvall to kind of give him the answers and stuff like that,
Right.
I feel like to
Give him
us,
permission more than anything else.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And not permission to take the job. He wants Bernie to tell him,
That
if
it's
you
not-
take this job at the Seminole, I'll never forgive you. That's what he wants Bernie to say.
I kind of like.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'll agree with you there. But I will say that Bernie was a shining example of healthy boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that because a lot of people would watch that and they would see Robert Duvall as being a little bit of an asshole and be like, come on, man, throw the guy a bone a little bit. It's like Robert Duvall, like that character, Bernie, he did more for that character than if he would have opened his mouth and given him any advice.
Exactly. Yep.
I know you have problems, but they're your problems.
Yep.
And it's like you have to handle your own shit, and that is a good character. And and I'm not gonna say that Bernie was a good guy. I'm gonna say he was a good character.
Yeah.
Because
for sure.
But one of the things that makes him not a good man, but a good character, is the fact that when he was sitting there talking about the fact that he used to fuck around on his daughter's mom and everything like that, he owned it. He's like, I fucked up my life. I made these mistakes. I'm the reason she hates me. And Jason Alexander's like, yeah, that'd do it.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of honesty in there, and that is one thing I very much appreciate is honesty from characters.
Yeah.
I gotta give him that. We already covered that. I did enjoy the inclusion of the scene right where they see the paper, like the two boys, they see the paper, and the little sister is asking, what does it say? And they're like, it's okay. And they're just protecting her, just making sure that she doesn't know anything. Good kids.
Yep.
Good brothers. I very much appreciated the inclusion of those scenes. Okay, so I've never had a pregnant wife, but I do have to imagine when Marissa Tomei calls the newsroom and she's talking to Michael Keaton on the phone and she's just going out of her mind and she's like, I'm bored, I'm pregnant, I'm bored, I'm pregnant, I'm bored. Yeah. And he's like, and he knows everything that's going on and he's trying to be, so he's like, I do not have time for this, but he's still trying. He's like, are you sure? Do you got it? I gotta go. Are you gonna find it? You got it? Okay, bye. Like, he's really trying.
Yeah.
Like, you definitely see that the paper is a high priority for him, but you don't get the impression that the paper isn't a high priority for her. And that is what made that dynamic actually work.
Right. Yep.
The Catherine O'Hara freaking Marissa Tomei out was perfect. That scene was
it's such a good scene. Yeah.
A++. And Glenn Close's intro scene completely explained her character in a very, very how do I want to put this?
Succinct.
Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say decisive.
Yeah.
But like she turns out like, oh, Bobby called?
Right.
Like, with Robert De Niro and all that. They're like, yeah, so they're saying like it'll be $500 a plate. Like, and just immediately embarrass her and all their shit. And you see the level of ego, and that is setting up that whole thing. I thought this was really great because I didn't catch this until the second time I watched it. That set up her financial issues. because when Robert Duvall is like, we walk in their world, but it is their world.
Right. And
Like, we don't
then
make that kind of money.
it's yeah, and it's like that is her motivation through the whole thing is she first of all believes that she's the only one keeping this paper afloat
Mm-hmm.
because of how she handles the money and makes sure everything works. And no one gives her credit for that. All she gets is shit for it. So in her mind, at the very least, her consolation prize should be at the very least inclusion into the high society that she is doing this for. Her bosses like fancy parties. She should be a part of that because she is taking this shit and doing this job for him. And his response is, "Oh no, go fuck yourself." Like,
I don't
like
know.
her,
I think I can see where you're coming from with that, but at the
she
same
just wants
time,
some recognition and gets it from nowhere. Not even she barely gets recognition from the dude she's stooping behind her husband's back. Like even he writes her off half the time in their conversation. Like,
so I did read a little bit on the fact that somebody said that at this point Ron Howard does not know how to write women.
okay,
And I read that after I watched it the first time. So when I went back to watch it the second time, I tried to key in on that, and I don't know what to think about that because Marissa Tomei was perfect. Her
yeah,
performance was perfect. Her character was perfect. She was fucking perfect. So I don't know if I can say that. However, damn, there was a lot of sexist, like just basically like okay, so no, I want to get to that after the notes. Okay, God, I fucking love that Bobby called. I love that fucking.
yeah,
So the staff meeting shows all of the pressure of a fresh day,
mm-hmm.
starting from zero with the pressures of it, having to go with that, the quick decisions, all that.
Yep,
And I like that Robert Duvall actually had a scene where he was talking about that later. I have to just bring all the praise for the dick map of Florida.
right.
I laughed
Someone in
way
the
too
props
hard and
department
way too long for that.
someone in the props department spent a whole day on that. They thank you for your patronage.
I'm curious if that line. So when the guy comes in and Robert Duvall is smoking, and the guy and Phil, he's like, "God damn it, enough with the
The
cigarette. They found nicotine in my urine." He's like, "Well, then stop. Like, keep your dick out of my ashtray."
yep,
The look on Robert Duvall's face kind of tells me that was an improv line because he was so happy when he was saying it. He's like, "Well, they keep your dick out of my ash." Like it was
right, yeah,
so
yeah.
funny. I loved that. Uh, I loved all the pressure of that. The inclusion of the need for a connection, the story to actually have to be connected, even if it's a global event or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
New Yorkers have to have been there to witness it.
Right.
The New Yorkers only care about New York
Because
cliche.
well, I don't think it's so much a New Yorkers only care about New York cliche. I think it's because this was a local paper that had to report on New York. That was their whole shtick in a time
Right, because
where
the Sentinel covered the world, these guys covered local.
yeah,
That is a good point.
and this is during a time when there is no shortage of local papers in New York too. At the same time, like this, newspapers were still extremely competitive back then. You know,
Yeah.
and like in Portland, we had like the Willamette Weekly and the Mercury constantly fighting for who's going to be, the mainstream free paper and who's going to be
It's
the
weird
grungy
for
free
me to
paper.
think the Mercury was ever a heavy competitive type thing because now it kind of looks like a tabloid with nipple stickers.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like times have changed, but
Very much so.
yeah, it's like that's just in Portland. New York times that by 100,
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I will say I'm curious if you noticed this when Bernie started coughing, and so I know that you noticed everybody in the room went quiet.
Yeah.
But did you notice that every single hint of background noise also went quiet?
No, I did not notice that.
No
No.
phone, like the beginning of the scene, you have phone calls, people talking, everything like that. All of that is happening outside of the scene. You can still hear phone calls and just general office stuff.
Right.
After, like when he starts coughing, though, it is nothing,
Mm-hmm.
pure dead.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very very good. And
It was very
This was
theatrical.
when the climax began.
That was
Or
one
it
of
was set
those
up.
moments where it felt like you're watching a play. Like there were a lot of moments in this movie where where it felt like you were watching a a play on stage where everything has been practiced and coordinated, and every sound cue and every light cue has been fought over 100 times. Like this was a Broadway play that happened to be on camera in
I'll
so
agree
many
with
moments
that.
of this movie.
This was also a movie you could not look away. Like this is not a movie that people would be able to get into now because they don't have that kind of attention span.
You don't think?
I don't think so. I think because if you look down or if you check your phone and you don't hit pause, you're missing a lot of shit in this movie.
It's true.
Like you have to actually be keyed in. This is a movie that would be perfect to be popped back up into like an independent movie theater for a night or something like that, where phones weren't allowed and people actually had to get into the movie.
Sure, yeah.
Like that would be where this would thrive. But for a young millennial or a zillennial to try to sit down and watch this movie, I doubt they would even know what the hell it was about. Like I know like they'd probably key in on like 3 of the storylines, but they'd also miss like 7 of them.
Mm.
Like Phil's entire journey with the chair.
Yeah.
Like
And which
the
is
entire payoff to that story happens in the background.
yeah. And you know what? I forgot about it actually, even though I know exactly what you're talking about. When I was sitting there listing off my A, B, C, D, and E stories, I had forgotten about Phil with the chair. So now we have an H story to add in there.
I'm telling you, man, there's a lot here. The condescending ass interview / job offer, the job at missing this or jab at missing the story, calling the paper cute, all of that.
Oh yeah.
The doctor scene, it was really good because a lot of doctors are actually funny. Like you crack a joke with a doctor, they'll kind of spit one back with you because you're kind of guaranteed that fucker's heard every single one of them and he's probably thought of the responses, and that's
Yeah.
just good bedside manner.
Especially a urologist. I mean, my God.
Or a proctologist.
I both really, real, yeah.
Who checks the prostate? Is that a urologist or a proctologist?
I think that's a urologist actually.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like 4 years away from that. Yeah, but having Bernie disconnected from his comfort zone, like he's trying to keep the same type of flow that he has in the newsroom, and he's trying to keep that. It's like he's saying some stuff, he's doing some stuff, he's being funny, everything like that. He's keeping some levity to it, and this doctor is not about it. And the way that Ron Howard or David Koepp, like the way that they wrote that out, and they didn't let that character get any of that levity. I thought that was really brilliant. I thought that was a good moment to take Robert Duvall out of his comfort zone, and
Right.
or not Robert, but Bernie. I don't think Robert Duvall has a comfort zone.
Not, yeah, he's definitely destroyed it all if he has by now. That's for
I
sure.
mean,
Yeah.
what
What has he ever said no to? Yeah.
but not just that. Like, when has he ever not just absolutely killed it?
Yeah, exactly.
He's amazing. The news interview about do you think this is affecting tourism and all this? Like, yeah, my brother was gonna come to New York and he canceled his trip. How fucking relevant is that to this day?
Right,
Last
yeah.
year or the year before, not that long ago, I was talking to my friend up in North Dakota, and he was telling me like, yeah, we were gonna head over to Minneapolis, but it's crazy over there. And I was working in Minneapolis after the summer of protest, and like a year or two before this conversation, and no, it wasn't.
Oh yeah. Well, and that was one of my like, and this is one of the reasons why this movie keeps coming up for me. Like, not like beyond the whole like my just general.
Well,
Have
the
you
social
seen this
commentary on this is like,
'Cause, like, when
you dream that a news station or a newspaper is going to have a Henry.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
and then like in that scene you're talking about where the guy's all like, my brother was going to travel to New York, but he canceled his trip. And then that one reporter, he's watching it and he turns around and goes like, oh, big story from the news guy. Pinhead's brother cancels trip.
Yep.
And the number of times that line has popped up in my head over the last 20 years, just wherever, like anytime someone says something like, oh, I don't go to that neighborhood or something like that. I don't go there after dark, or I don't want to travel to this area because, every single time I hear someone say something like that, I hear that line, Pinhead's brother cancels trip. And so that's why it
That's good. That is good.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. So I was curious about this because this wasn't something that was clear whether or established or not, and I actually enjoy the fact that it wasn't. But did Keaton prompt Robert Duvall to contact his daughter by the conversation that he had on the rooftop earlier, or is that part of Bernie's day every morning walking by his little girl's home and just seeing her?
And that's a good question. I don't know. He definitely.
Wait. He was so happy when he saw that child. That I think that was the first time he saw the child. I'm going to walk that back.
Yeah, I got the impression that was his first time because he seemed genuinely surprised, happily surprised to see a baby there. So
Robert Duvall, given that performance of being so, like that joy in his eyes and everything, like just fucking mirror. Like I was watching that and it made me think of Miracle on 34th Street, which I know he's not in it, but still.
Yeah.
Or is he? It's Robert Duvall. I don't know.
Would you know if he was? Yeah.
Honestly, Miracle on 34th, wasn't that like in the 70s or 60s? Like he would have been young enough. I don't know.
Miracle on 34th Street is in black and white, dude.
Oh my God, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. That movie's from the 30s.
We're looking. Nah. But I need to. That broke my brain.
Okay.
I need to know.
All right. I won't stop you.
1947. Okay. Yep.
Okay.
1947.
I was off by a decade.
But still, though, I mean, that's. We're gonna take a little break here because I just want to know who is in this.
Okay.
I'm going to refine by popularity and see if there's anybody that actually stands out. What? Natalie Wood was it? Wait, no, I knew that. Okay, I'm gonna look that up some other time. Maybe we'll do like a holiday episode and we'll just cover Christmas movies or something.
I'm trying to remember when the last time it was that I actually saw that movie. So maybe why not?
I'm gonna guess for me 1994, 96 maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a kid. Like at my grandparents' place watching Miracle on 34th Street. I think it was on like TCM or something. Like.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. This is where it's gonna get kind of. So okay, no. First, I'm gonna talk about this one. So O'Hara at lunch with Tomei and how much it freaked her out. How believable Marissa Tomei was with being freaked out. How believable Catherine O'Hara was with talking about her experience on that.
Just that on edge, like the floodgates are just barely not open yet, but you can see them straining. Yeah.
But that's where I'm talking about, like with Ron Howard. I'm gonna circle back to it.
Okay,
I want to keep conclusion stuff for the conclusion, you know.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the super casual cheating with Glenn Close and her coworker. Glenn Close is really set up to be the bad guy in this because she's sitting in there and she's talking about like, oh, my finances are run worse than Russia's. And then the very next scene, she's going to Robert Duvall and she's talking about how she wants a raise. And she's in the previous scene, she's like in the hotel room talking about like, well, just how much does this cost? And she's in there like, I'm valuable, I'm this, I deserve more money. And Robert Duvall tries everything he can to end the conversation without telling her, stop fucking this dude and spending money on hotel rooms and stuff like this. You're screwing yourself over by spending all that fucking money on there. He tries every single approach. He even tells that story about Pablo Picasso and everything like that.
Right.
Which, to to the right or wrong feminist, I don't know how you'd phrase that. That scene would be very condescending, just or anything like that. However, if somebody was talking to me, that is actually probably how I would have actually appreciated it.
Mm,
Like if like instead of like if I was doing like making bad decisions and everything like that, somebody would
right.
have a better opportunity of actually reaching me by telling something like that instead of just directly telling me you're being a piece of shit.
Right.
So like so I don't know how to genuinely think that one, but Glenn Close is not a good person. She's a good character,
Right. No,
but
she's a
that
great
like
character.
great character, not
I
a good
found
person.
her, yeah. And yeah, and well, and she is. I mean, she may be a sympathetic villain in some parts, like when she's going to her boss to basically try and ask him directly for a raise, and the way he treats her in that makes you feel a little sorry for her.
I didn't.
But it also,
She's fucking around on her husband and she wants more money, so the fact that she's fucking around on her husband doesn't hurt her wallet. I did not feel bad for her.
but at the same time, it is a running theme, like in the very beginning when we're introduced to her, when they're taught, when she's yelling at Henry over the long distance phone calls on, Bill coming to the building, and she's like, do you think I enjoy firing people, is over this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she really genuinely believes that she has an uh unmatched level of value to this
Yes,
company.
she's a
And
narcissist. I don't
right.
feel bad for her. Like, oh, Ted Bundy, he just had to kill people. It's like, I don't really feel too bad for him. Like, he got
Okay,
put in prison. Like honestly, like, you're a shitty
maybe
fucking person. You get what you deserve. I don't feel bad.
maybe I've seen this movie too many times, and so I've just kind of compounded feeling sorry for her. Maybe
That is
that's what's
fair.
going on here, because I have seen this movie over 100 times.
Holy, well, it goes by really fast. I can
Uh-huh.
kind of see how that happens. Uh, oof, yeah, the raid. So what
Mm,
made the raid so much more painful to watch the second time? Because when I watched the first time, and there's that cop in there that's like, "I'll blow your fucking head off" and all this shit.
right,
It's like the second time you're like, these guys knew that these kids were innocent. They knew
right.
that they were kids, they knew that they were innocent, and they knew that before going in there, and that's the energy that they brought into this place. And that's where I was talking about, like, this is where it gets a little because that is real.
Yeah,
And that is gut wrenching.
yeah. No,
I this
it's
Yeah, I give credit to Ron Howard for including those particular scenes in this film because it would have been very easy just to make this all about the privileged
yeah,
news reporters and everything that they're bitching about, and the woman whining about that she has to pay money to go sit with Robert De Niro instead of being a guest.
right,
Like,
exactly.
real shit, invented shit. Like,
Yeah.
I give Ron Howard a lot of credit for taking a break from the privileged story to tell a real world.
So
And I'm not
things
saying
that
like,
scenes that you where you even ask yourself, like, was this even in the script, or was it added just to make the whole what they're doing, what they're fighting for, the story that they're trying to tell, more real.
mm-hmm,
And it does do exactly that.
it really
you
does.
it takes it from a an abject fight over, who's going to beat who in the story, and makes it a very real world. No, this is someone's life that
Mm-hmm.
he's basically trying to tell the story of.
Yeah, that was good job. Good
Hmm.
job, Mr. Howard. Uh, where was this? Oh, okay. I really enjoyed that Picasso story. Honestly, just Robert Duvall telling a story, like, he has that weight, he has that charisma, he has that gravity.
Hmm.
And when you have Robert Duvall telling a younger Glenn Close, which just two powerhouses
Yeah.
in this scene, and like, I love one, I hate the other, but I'm loving that I'm hating the other, and I am hating how much I love Robert Duvall because I don't want him to die. Very beautifully crafted. Like, it was it was a good moment. It was a very good moment. And also, Bernie tried to give he gave her every opportunity for him not to bring up the affair.
Mm-hmm.
But when she's like, I know my value, I'm worth this, I'd like to start interviewing, I'm gonna go up to the boss, and he's like, don't do that, that's not gonna go well for you. Like, he actually is trying to look out for her.
Yeah.
And she's just like, no, I want to fuck, and I want to get paid more so I can keep fucking, and just rough. The gun set was set up 2 times over. We did we did speak about that. We
let Marnie talk to her husband.
Randy Quaid's exposition dump about the when he heard over the police scanner.
Yep.
When he heard that, the wheels turning in Michael Keaton's head, and you're just I'm gonna call them
his
the wheels of
hair
morality.
is practically standing up. You can see those wheels turning.
Like his eyebrows are even they're getting more and more bad. Did you notice when Michael Keaton put the phone down, there's the Batman logo? Like when he takes his hand off, there's a Batman logo on the phone?
No, you're kidding.
I thought like that was like a super like just tiny little Easter egg throwback to Michael Keaton being Batman. But when he puts the phone down, there's a Batman logo on it. I thought that was really cheeky.
How could I have missed that? I'm gonna have to go watch it again, I guess. Darn.
Yep. Viewing 101. Yep. Well, yeah, when Randy Quaid shoots the stack of papers and everything is coming on in, Phil comes in. I got my chair and it better not come out of my paycheck. Which, number one, fuck you. Is that really an attitude that people bring to their boss? Like,
Apparently
I would imagine,
these guys do, yeah.
I would imagine I would be fired that second. Like if I went in there and I pulled some crap like that at any job I have ever had, I would imagine my boss would go, interesting. May I have the room? You're fucking fired. If I got the privilege of
hold
being
on.
alone.
Not only are you fired, but I'm going to need you to stand there for a second because I'm still deciding whether or not I'm going to throw you out the fucking window. Yeah.
Pretty much. Oh my god! But yeah, when Randy Quaid, when he shoots the papers and the way he says like, let Marnie or talk to her husband. Like,
yeah,
I loved that character. I really
did. I
loved
not tell
that
you?
character.
Did I not tell you?
You
that,
did. You absolutely did, and you were completely correct. That it feels like Ron Howard just asked Randy Quaid to show up and be himself.
Yeah,
that's really what it feels like, and it worked so damn well. But Marissa Tomei sitting back there and just like how freaked out she's getting, big breathing, and she sniffles at the very beginning of the movie, and she just keeps sneezing every once in a while, and I think that sickness, like her being sick, is what prompted the emergency labor. I'm not sure about that, but I was curious why Ron Howard had her be sick. And I think that's where
that was the foreshadowing, is that she's got some kind of cold or something that's going to turn into a complication type thing. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking, because otherwise I don't know why it was there, just a random story bit, or maybe Marissa was actually sick that day.
Or I kind of wrote it off personally. I wrote it off as like a running gag, because remember the first time she sneezes, like first of all it seems like they're, Right, exactly. She goes, she sneezes and goes, you never miss bladder control until it's gone.
By the way, I like when she said that line, the way she delivered that, like Michael Keaton just goes, oh boy. And like when and she's looking at the camera, I wanted to go into the TV and just hug her and be like, dude, it's okay. It's all right. Like, my God, Marissa Tomei, what a delight.
Superstar, yep. And so yeah, I kind of struck that as like that was just another way for them to tell, like, she's not just pregnant, she is very, very pregnant. She is so pregnant you wouldn't believe. She can't even sneeze without it, and like, and then that and then when she does it again in his office when everybody's yelling and she just kind of sneezes and quietly just kind of like, the way I read that is that she peed then too. She just like peed right on his couch and is just quietly sitting there going like, maybe I should just wait until everyone leaves before I say anything. like that was my takeaway. But also at the same time, also kind of not caring, because as she says later, like she's so happy to be there, to just be sitting there and
Yeah,
witnessing the
just God, I
chaos.
miss this
Yeah,
place.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like she's so happy just to be there.
Uh, so Marissa Tomei being pessimistic slash realistic, and Michael Keaton being just the eternal optimist. Like we can get it, we can go, we can get it, we can get it, we can go. Like I
Yep.
physically, I wasn't 100% on board with their relationship, but emotionally and intellectually, I did understand how those two matched.
Hmm.
But I don't know of anybody who I actually could see standing next to Marissa Tomei and go, yeah, that fits, which is why
Right.
she was with freaking like everybody that she actually was with. None of
Right.
like, did any of them actually? I mean, like, what? Alfred Molina?
What? What are you talking about? I think I lost you there for a second. Are you
Alfred
talking about
Alfred
are you talking about actual relationships?
in a movie. Alfred
Oh,
Molina and Marissa Tomei played opposite each other in Chocolat.
Marissa Tomei was in Chocolat.
I'm getting something back. I'm getting something mixed.
Hmm.
Um, Marissa Tomei.
Are you trying to say Joe Pesci?
No, from My Cousin Vinny.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I mean that it's like 2 years apart from this movie, and like Marissa Tomei was such an absolute dynamite beauty. Who could
Mhm.
you have stacked her up with and actually had that be a realistic couple?
Ooh, that is a tough one. That is a tough one.
The Perez family. Marissa Tomei and Alfred Molina played in a movie together called Ooh, The Perez Family. And okay, I'm not gonna. Actually, I think I'm gonna have to go back and watch this because Alan Silvestri composed the score.
Ooh. Okay. That might be something.
That's who composed the score for Avengers.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, like
Silvestri is
I would love to see some of his
he's a
early
pillar
stuff.
of the movie music community. Like Silvestri's done. Trying to think here. He's he no, he didn't do Superman theme, but he's done something to that degree. I'm trying to remember what he's done.
I'll probably do a whole episode on
Yeah.
Silvestri just because I really do like how well he composed the music for Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame.
Mhm.
I I I was very on board with it. But I'm discovering as I'm getting older that I don't like movies that have soundtracks. I like movies that have scores.
Okay, interesting.
I That's something that's starting to drop off with me. Like when I'm watching a movie and they go into an actual song, it doesn't hit me the same way as if I just heard a violin playing.
There's something to be said about that.
It
I
depends on the
kind of,
movie.
yeah, it depends on the movie, and it also depends on, I think, how much thought was put into it.
Hmm.
Because I think there are a few, especially nowadays, and especially there's a couple examples of even Avenger of not Avenger, but MCU movies where
They screw up.
the the choice of
Captain Marvel.
song, yeah,
I'm just a girl for the final battle.
that was clearly they did not shoot that scene with that song in mind.
They did
Someone
not.
made a decision after the fact that that had to be in there, and that was a bad call because they did not go together at all.
Mm-mm.
I'm sorry. Like as
I
much
knew
as I
exactly like
enjoyed that
in
money, I know why
all
they
30 some movies of the MCU,
I
and
start
I knew
talking,
it.
you already know what I'm talking
I
about. Yeah.
Because it was that big of a mistake.
Yeah.
Like that
But at
was
the same time,
yeah.
I think back to, like
Iron Man and
Pulp Fiction.
oh.
The Pulp Fiction soundtrack was as big of a deal as Pulp Fiction the movie.
So you can switch it over to so this was a thing, and also this movie.
Mhm.
There was an original song from Randy Newman. What was it called? Make.
Oh God, I don't remember.
Yeah, but that was an Oscar-winning song that year.
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
yeah, it was, yeah, as happens with Randy Newman. Yeah.
true. But this was the last time that Ron Howard ever worked with Randy Newman.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's odd.
After this movie, Ron Howard switched to a different composer. I forgot who it was, but this was the last time that he actually worked with him. And this was the second to last acting credit for the guy who played Phil, going after the chair and everything like that.
Hmm.
He was done after this. He actually died in 2020 due to COVID. So,
Oof.
sorry, buddy.
Yeah. Pour one out for Phil.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, I loved this moment, but it also made me wonder if this was something that Bernie did every day, looking up the definition of deadline. I just got the feeling that he did that every single day.
Yeah.
And I just
Because
really like that.
he opened that dictionary right up to it.
Right. And it was like the page itself was very smoke stained.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's been seen before.
Yeah, this is a normal thing. Like, they have their 3 o'clock meeting, and no one is ever on time to it. That is how it works here. And Bernie's job is to give everyone shit for it every time.
Yep. When he comes out and he's like, 3:09, and he just goes back into his office. Just those little moments, just absolutely beautiful.
Like I said, like watching a play.
So in this staff meeting at this point, the battle of morality, I really think this is where it begins. So, like I said, for a lot of us, when it comes to issues that happen with the world, we hope and pray that there is a Michael Keaton Henry character in that place that is going to stop the Tucker Carlson, that is going to stop the Sean Hannity, that is going to stop the Laura Ingraham. I should name somebody other than Fox News. I just don't know anybody.
Right.
But you hope that there's going to be somebody with integrity that is going to be there, that is going to say, stop. You are going to ruin this person's life. He literally says, permanently alter perception. Like, he is morally correct. Mm-hmm. There's no way around it.
And it's not even just a case of, like, it's not even just a case of you're going to ruin their life. It's that we know this story is wrong. Mm-hmm. We may not have the, tangible proof of it, but we know it's wrong. Like, we know these kids didn't do it. We may not have a quote from a cop saying they didn't do it, so we can't legally say that, but it's immoral for us to say that they did do it. Mm-hmm. And or anything like that, because
what Glenn Close says, we taint them today, or polish them tomorrow. I can't
celebrate them tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
So and then everybody's happy, and it's like, no, dude, you're happy. Like, damn, she does not have a good moment all the way up until she has a good moment.
Right.
And that good moment,
very, very, very last second, and even that, her actual last line in the movie negates all the good she did.
Nope, no, it didn't. Nope.
You disagree. You disagree. Okay, we'll get to that then.
Because her, okay, no, we will get to that. Setting up. Oh, when Bernie leaves the room and he's all crabby and stuff like that, and the one guy's like, "What's up his ass?" Mm-hmm. And Michael Keaton goes, "Bagel."
Right.
And then he looks and he kind of looks down. I had a moment. I was like, did he, in character, did his character react to that too fast? And then Henry had a moment to himself, and I think maybe that was too far. Because that's what I saw there, and that made me love him even more. Like, I know I might be assigning that moment to him, but I don't know why else they would have put that there.
Yeah, because they have that whole dynamic. Like they've made it very clear that there's, the doctor found nicotine in my urine. Don't put your dick in my ashtray. Like, they're like that. It absolutely makes sense that after Duvall's saying to him, like, I got a prostate the size of a bagel. That whole, like, if you've got a quip like that in the chamber ready to go, you probably would and it's like, oh, it's a bagel, and probably in the moment he probably went like he had it ready to go. It went out, and then he went, this might have been a bad time for that, and maybe maybe cancer's not funny. Maybe we shouldn't be joking about that. I think it really was. He wasn't thinking and then went, oh shit, I've gone too far.
Now,
I think he was looking around to see if anybody like even caught what he was saying. Like I think it was one of those because no one else was in the room for the bagel comment before that. So he kind of got away with it. Like no one got it. All right, I'm good.
which endeared me to him a little more. But this next scene, when he goes into the photographer, Robin, and he fucks with her head, he hypes her up, he gets her, he ups.
By the way, is not Amanda Plummer. I thought for years that was Amanda Plummer, but it is not. She's actually that's like one of 2 acting roles for that young lady.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I didn't even think to look into her.
For years upon years, I thought that was Amanda Plummer, and then someone like another person I showed it to, and I was like, "And can you believe young Amanda Plummer in this movie?" And they're like, "What are you nuts? That wasn't Amanda Plummer." And I went, "No," and I went online and looked it up, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's not Amanda Plummer. Who the fuck is that?" And yeah,
happens to us all, man.
Yeah,
it really, really does. But I also want to throw this out there. This was only Marissa Tomei's 8th acting credit. That's how good she is.
Yeah, she really
hit the ground running
fast. Yeah,
she hit the ground running.
I remember how shocked everyone was when she won her Oscar for My Cousin Vinny. It was even like a joke. They made a joke about it in an episode of Family Guy. You know,
they did.
Yeah, you don't remember that? There was literally an episode of Family Guy. It was a joke where they basically like they sent out I can't remember what the setup was, but someone said the wrong thing at the Oscars. They like said like, you know, and the nominees today are a dog, a fish, and a bowl of calamari. And they were like, oh shit, he's gone crazy. What do we do? And the guy behind the counter is just like, don't worry, we'll just pretend that we'll pretend that that's what's real, just like we did with Marissa Tomei.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Fuck that. She absolutely crushed it.
No, yeah, and that was the thing. Is like anybody on the ground. See, that was like I also remember at the same time, like my family, like when we heard that she was nominated, we all went, "Oh, she's gonna win it!" Like we knew because we had seen the movie. We knew it was going on. We were like, "Oh, yeah, no, she deserves it. She's gonna win it." And when she won it, we were like, we all called it. But then all the like the Hollywood Reporter TV shows were like, "Fucking what?" How's that possible? She's a nobody.
So here was where I wasn't sure about Henry's character.
Mm-hmm.
When he just comes in, he's like, I don't want to be wrong today. That was where I was like, wait a minute. Is this an ego thing or is this about morality?
Right.
Because that was where it introduced a little bit of a question. However, I can also see that as I don't want to be wrong about this.
Right.
Like today's news is too important to be wrong about.
Right. And I think that was kind of the course of that whole scene was you know, and even like Glenn Close, you know, Alicia's even trying to take him down. The only reason you give a shit is because we got beat this morning, because of the parking story, you know. You like she's like the only reason you care is because you want to get back at everybody. If it wasn't for that, you wouldn't care. And to his point, he's like, so what? Like, so what if that's my motivation? The fact is, I'm right. Whether I'm right for the wrong reason,
that also
I'm still
colors
right.
Alicia. It also colors Glenn Close's character. She has lost her ability to even imagine that he's being honest about. That he cares that they're like, she can't even imagine that her brain is not there anymore. And I like this was a moment. It was very, very small, but I feel like it was so much more important than somebody might realize. There was the one man who was talking about, like, well, you know, if we put it as an exclamation point, then it's a statement. If we put it as a question, then it can be something that's like this. And then that really old lady walks by and she's like, you're ethical, you're accurate, and I want you out of this building.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yep. Loved her.
That was a great moment.
I'm like 90% sure she was based off of a real person, but because I seem to remember like up to about 2008ish or something like that, there was a lady who looked just like her that was in the front row of the White House press pool. Every time, every time
Was it her?
it wasn't her, but it was someone who
Okay.
looked a lot like her. She, and
Because we
I'm
know there are a
blanking.
lot of actors that cross into like sideline reporters and journalism and stuff like that. That does happen.
That's true. That's very true. But yeah, I feel like that lady was supposed to be like an homage to that specific reporter that had been reporting in the White House for like 50 years straight,
She was
and was
great.
no,
She
and
was
was
a
known for
phenomenal
being a pistol.
inclusion. Okay. So in that same scene that we were just discussing, Michael Keaton is sitting in a chair and he goes, "Nice chair, Ray." And then Ray goes, "Yeah, it's a great chair." And somebody else walks away. It's like, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
stolen chair. And then
Yep.
you go like 3 seconds later, and then Phil walks up and see his sign that says "Do not touch" on a stool, and
Yep.
that is the absolute payoff to the Phil wants a chair storyline.
Yep.
And I thought that was great. I thought that was a beautiful story being told somewhat in the background, not completely, but I really enjoyed that.
Yep.
So when Bernie is talking to his daughter and he's saying like, "Look, do you hate me? Because if you hate me, then there's no point." And he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't actually say what there is no point to, but what the audience, like what I took away was, why tell her about the cancer? Why introduce pain into her life if she hates me? Why do
Yeah.
this? If I can just die and she only has to suffer that one time, why would I introduce potentially more pain if this person doesn't love me? I
Right.
I got that. That was not explained. That was not said. But that's what I took away from it, and my heart was so heavy for him.
He's in this place here because I mean the reason why he's making an effort to reconnect with her is because of the cancer diagnosis. But at the same time, there's no way she's going to give him the time of day unless he tells her, by the way, I've got cancer,
Hmm.
which would just ruin the whole
But
thing anyway.
but that speaks to the great character that is Bernie.
Yeah,
He didn't do that.
exactly. He was trying his damnedest the hard way around to try and make amends with her,
Hmm.
despite her basically saying, no fucking way.
Hmm.
And he had this trump card in his pocket that he did not use because he does want to, if they're going to reconcile before he dies, he wants
It's
to
going
be
to
a
be
real
organic.
it's going to be a real reconciliation, not a pity
Hmm.
reconciliation, because she knows he's dying.
Yes,
Yep.
and I appreciated that. I approved of that. I loved it. The perp walk broke the story.
Why do you say that?
A 17-year-old would not be walked in front of the cameras.
Hmm, that is a good point.
That's me again. Every once in a while, probably once or twice per episode, I'm gonna be a nitpicking bitch.
It never even occurred to me that they were only 17 for some
One was
reason.
19. One was
One was
19. It was 17 and 19.
right. Okay. Yeah, I think that was just that's just a basic overlook.
That's
Because
storytelling. Yeah.
yeah, if they had one little quick edit of making the younger one 18, so they're 18 and 19, and you got no problem. But I
Zero
think
problem.
maybe he was just like, oh no, we'll really get him sympathetic. We'll make him 17. He's really just
Mhm.
a kid, and they didn't think it through. So yeah, we'll call that one a typo.
I can get on board with that because that it
Yeah,
really is it breaks the story, but it wasn't like a major part of the story,
right.
So I can see that. GC, who is GC? Oh, Glenn Close.
Glenn Close. Who's GC? Get out. You'll
Uh,
never work in this town again.
So yes, actually, that is what you were talking about earlier when you were saying that Glenn Close is like, you don't give a shit. This is just about somebody else beating the story, everything like that.
Mhm.
Da 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 da. Loved like this entire movie. You never see Michael Keaton's wheels stop turning,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and that was really great. I loved that. Marissa Tomei going, somebody comes in and they put a gun to my head and they say, like, I'm going to shoot her, I'm going to blow up the building. Which one's going to be? And then he loses, like, he's like, that's never going to happen. And, like, I was all the way on board and I was all the way on his side until the very next thing that Marissa Tomei says.
Exactly.
And I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch with your good writing and your, like, happenstantial dialogue. And, oh, my God, you nailed it.
Yep.
Because when Marissa Tomei comes in, she's like, you're waiting for the bomb. You're
Right.
waiting for the gun. You're waiting to have this giant, big romantic moment that you can show me. That is never going to come. And you are continuously messing up every single time by waiting for that to happen, by missing every little opportunity. And damn.
Yeah. No, it's a hundred little ways you choose the paper over me.
Yeah, what a great, because I feel like every relationship has that moment where one of the people in there comes up with giant things like that, like really dramatic, over the top, exaggerated stuff. But that's never the point.
Right.
The point is always what you do on the day to day, because that is really what is important.
It's like, how can you say I don't like you? I took you to Catalina last summer. It's like, yeah, but you haven't spoken to me since.
Okay, now this is just what I love about Robert Duvall. All right, this is what I love. He's in the bar, he's sitting down, he sees Sandusky, Jason Alexander, a few chairs down, all that. He's like, "What's up with him?" He's like, "Oh, he's here, getting ready for a fight." He's like, "Ah," and then you just see like Robert Duvall, and I want to say this was improv just because of how much joy was on his face doing, just like, "Oh,
Right.
Bang. So damn funny.
It was like, oh, you're here for a fight? I'm feeling punchy. You want to do a warm up?
What a damn delight. Okay, so this was a good thing. Robin's victory is absolutely our dread. So your hope, like, so she's having this great career-changing moment. I'm not going to get fired. All this. So you kind of want to be happy for her, but you're also like, oh fuck.
It's very conflicted. Yeah,
it's a very conflicting moment, and I really do appreciate that.
Because of the way Henry even says it to her. He says, if you don't get this shot, then Alicia can't run the page one that she wants. Like, he's sabotaging Alicia's plan by sending a fucking child to a perp walk.
Yeah, and just, my God.
Yet she pulls it through in the most epic way that you are cheering for. You're so proud of Robin in this moment.
But you don't want to be.
But yeah, it isn't until like right after that you're like, oh shit.
Exactly, like you're happy for her, but you're like, oh, can you be the morality character and just toss the photo? Like, beautiful moment. The actor who played Graham, I didn't write his name down and I feel bad. He is a former Oscar winner.
Graham.
Wait a minute. It may not have been Graham. It was either Graham or it was the one who played Keaton's father. One of them was an Oscar winner, and I think this was their last performance. In the police station,
right?
When Keaton and Quaid go in there, the way the cop is set up, like he's walking down the empty hallway, he turns around and he sees the other cop. The journalists are filmed like horror characters.
You might as well have you can almost hear the Jaws theme. Dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun. Yeah.
I thought, I don't know why he did that, but I freaking love that he did.
Oh, it was beautiful. I loved it too. Yeah.
The bathroom scene was really good. I didn't think there was there was not one bad guy in that scene. The cop was stuck by the system what he has to do, because if this got out, he would get fired and he would potentially lose that. Right. Almost every single person that is in the position of the quote unquote bad guy in this movie has to choose: do I save my job and save my life, like quote unquote, or do I save their life? And the good character, like it's like almost every bad character in this movie is very understandable.
Yeah, you get their motivations. They have a moment of not quite redemption, but at least at the moment when it really counts the most, they choose not to be the villain in that moment momentarily. And I think that's
Glenn
kind of,
Close, her character needed a little bit extra
she
of a
needed an
push.
extra push. That's true.
Yeah.
Yes, but she did get there.
Randy Quaid did it. Him dropping wisdom actually, like wisdom coming out of Randy Quaid played better than I expected.
Yeah, because
I will give
that's
that.
what I loved about McDougal's character is that because he is of all the crazy shit that's going on. Like I said, it's Tuesday for him. Like he's the crazy guy. So all the crazy shit that's going on, he's the most non-phased by everything. Like all the chaos.
Until his car is taken.
Well, that upset him personally. He wasn't like thrown by it, you know. But I mean, like even when I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but even when
We don't have much
Sandusky,
left.
even when Sandusky has the gun on him, he's still kind of okay. He's like, okay,
Yeah.
it's not
He's
the
still
first time I've
cracking
had a
some
gun
jokes.
point. Yeah, it's not the first time
He's
I've had
like,
the gun pointed at me.
Why is it? It's like, it was your turn.
That is my favorite line in the movie.
That
is
was one of my favorite lines. That
right
is
when
one of
he
mine.
with you got Jason Alexander doing some of the most emotional acting he's ever done, in tears, gun shaking as he, you know, and why did you have to pick on me? And McDougal's just, you work for the city. It was your turn. Like that's another line right alongside Pinhead's brother.
It's not
line goes
just
through my
the
head a lot.
line. It's also Jason Alexander's reaction to the line. Sandusky hears it and he's like, fuck, it's a good point. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be called out. I shouldn't have worked with it. Like, he actually, like, the self accountability in this movie is actually quite good, because that was my very next note was Robert Duvall's accountability, which we did talk about. He was talking to Sandusky, you know, taking accountability for kind of a shit husband and father that he was.
Right.
When they're at the presses and Randy Quaid is screaming at him, he's like, come on, man, you got to say it. How often do you, like, when do you get the opportunity to do this?
Yeah.
And it took me a second to realize what he was talking about. But once I did, I was like, oh, yeah, that is a good moment. And then I will say Michael Keaton's delivery on Stop the Presses was really, really weak.
It was well. He's trying to shout over the presses themselves,
And that was why that was where I forgave it. That was where I forgave it. I just wish that they would have taken the microphone and, I don't know, maybe brought it a little closer to him for that particular line.
I think there was a deliberate choice on how ridiculous it was.
I got the chills from him doing it, because the Stop the Presses line, I appreciated that. I actually was invested in enough. Like, I got the chills. I just wish I would have heard it better.
I think that was a deliberate choice, in that, like, the only people who heard him say it and appreciated him saying it were him and McDougal. And really, that's the point. He was only doing it for him and McDougal. So, you know, I think that was fine. And
I mean, it didn't break anything for me. I just, like I said, I just wish it would have been louder. That whole scene, though, it didn't make any sense. The entire thing involving the presses and having to find Chuck and there being a guy with a key, not one piece of that made sense at all. If you are working on industrial like level machinery, there's like 5,000 kill switches all around the fucking joint. Because if somebody gets their hand stuck in there, it's like, oh shit, Chuck's in the bathroom. Sorry, dude, you're dead.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
That's not a fucking thing.
And no, that's true. But
like,
I think
artificial
there was
tension.
It was an artificial tension, but it also set up why, like, it basically introduces us to Chuck deliberately, so that later on, when Alicia's saying, "I need to talk to Chuck," I got to tell Chuck.
I know why it's there. I'm just saying that it didn't make it. Like, I know why it was there, but in real, like, that just no. Because and the second time I was watching, I was actually looking, and you can actually see all of the fucking kill switches all over that goddamn machine. They're bright red fucking buttons, like every 4 feet that Michael Keaton is walking down. So that did bug me, like, the entire time. I'm like, are they gonna while they're fighting, are they gonna accidentally hit a kill switch? Like, that's what I was actually waiting to come, because that was just. That bothered me.
Well, see, what the part that got me on that is in the fight where Henry actually does get a hold of the keys and opens the thing. He's about to hit the kill switch, but he gets tackled by Glenn Close, which, first of all, other than this one part,
I'm
great
sorry, but
scene.
this was my favorite part of the movie.
When
Glenn Close,
she's
like
in the
this.
Krav Maga stance, just like ready to take him out. Yeah.
That shit, I almost fell off the fucking couch laughing.
It
Like
was
I
it
was,
was
oh my
gold,
god,
yes.
that and
But
when. Oh, go.
well, the only part that brought me out, like the one flaw in the movie, I feel, is when she's supposed to tackle him before he hits the switch, but he opens it too quickly and is got like a whole like 2 seconds to hit the switch, and so he kind of steps back into Glenn Close so she can tackle him quicker.
Okay, okay, okay.
I feel like they should have taken another take, to try to get that timing down. With all
That's
the
fair.
other perfectly timed shit they had going on in this movie, they could have done another take of that tackle.
Glenn Close doing the air whiff kick.
Yes.
I screamed laughed when I saw that, and I've done that, like the fight training, the stunt training, all that stuff. Now the sad part is I've never done that in fight training, which is where something like that should happen. I had that happen. I was at the bar and we were hitting the punching machine, and I decided to be the I'm gonna Jean-Claude Van Damme this, I'm gonna be a cool guy. Nope, my jeans were too tight, and when my one leg came up, it pulled my other, like the top of my other leg up, and it just ripped me right off the ground, and I fell right on my ass. Everybody around me, the people who I was hanging out with, were crazy embarrassed, and they were like, "Oh God," or like that. Other people around, they're like, "Dude, are you okay?" And I'm just laying on the ground laughing my fucking ass off because I do have an ego, but it is not wrapped up in crap like that, man. Like if I do something funny, I'm gonna laugh about it.
Right? Yeah, you've got an ego, but you understand a good pratfall when it happens.
Yeah, like. I have the ability to laugh at myself even if everybody else is laughing at me at the same time. If it actually is something that is funny, I'm right on board with it.
Oh, sure. Yep.
And that was one of those things. But I don't think it was. I don't think anybody was laughing. Everybody actually thought that I really busted something.
Oh,
And everybody that I was with, everybody I was with was like, they were very good friends. So they didn't care if I was hurt or not. They just didn't want to stop drinking. They were good friends. Which, what I'm saying, that your
good
friend, your
good
good friend is
know.
going to laugh at how much you're bleeding.
Yes,
your
exactly.
acquaintance is going to be, oh my God.
Right. Exactly. Good friends trust you enough to tell them if you need to go to the hospital.
Yes. Glenn Close is just absolutely the clearest of bad guys in this situation and everything like that. But it is somewhat understandable because of the fact that she is, what is she, a managing editor, the fiscal editor? I don't know what that job position would be called.
It's never made totally clear what she is.
She is the one who is, she's like the budgetary.
She's in charge of the money.
Like that.
She does have the power to hire and fire people. It's not. It's never made clear if Bernie outranks her or not. It seems like he does, but sometimes it seems like he doesn't. Like
I think he does, but you're right. It's never
like
actually clear.
She definitely outranks Henry.
No. He does outrank her because Graham specifically says next time don't jump Bernie, like don't jump over Bernie, like.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. Also, Glenn Close walking into the men's room and all of that, and the actor who played Graham, when he turns around and goes, "I'd love it if you weren't here." How well he delivered that line was. Oh my God.
Yep.
Like that's just like I'm never gonna forget that line, and that is just not a line that should stick out in my head, but it's just because of how good he did it.
Right. Well, and this may be lost too, but that's the one of the interesting parts about this is that this is supposed to be some sort of like high level press corps dinner he's at. And so a lot of the other guys in that restroom, those are all like CBS, NBC reporters all in there. Like they're all supposed to be they're familiar faces
from real life.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Because
I'm forgetting his name, but I know the guy who like quickly zips up his pants and tries to run. I used to know that dude's name because I watched him on
he was a
CBS.
sportscaster.
Right. That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually who I was going to bring up. He was damn you and your stupid focus issues. The light helps.
Right.
Okay. So Randy Quaid going in and dropping that wisdom. The nasty thank you note that Marissa Tomei is writing before she goes into labor. Does not, like, there's no reason for her to be doing that or to be writing that, but how she is doing it, how nasty, like delightfully nasty she is being. I just
Yep.
every single thing that she did, I absolutely loved. It was so good.
Yep.
But yes, Randy Quaid drops that wisdom where he's saying, like, look, up, like, as far as I know, this paper, we have never intentionally reported on a story that we did not know was a lie or that we knew was
Right.
untrue
We
until
exaggerate,
today.
we exploit. Yeah, we exaggerate, we exploit, but we've never been deliberately wrong.
We have never actually just straight up, like, knowingly lied
Right.
about a story until today. And that's what I wanted to talk about with Glenn Close is when she had that moment and he said that to her, her face shape does not change. Her eye shape does not change. Her mouth shape does not change. Her nose shape does not change. However, you can see every single thing that she is thinking just through her eyes.
She
My God,
somehow
Glenn
she
Close,
somehow
you
alters
are
her
an
aura.
actor.
Yes. She somehow alters her aura, that we can't see but we can feel. Like,
Like,
yeah,
the amount of talent
nothing
that you
happened
have
here,
to,
but
like,
we feel it. Yes.
wow. just I mean, I don't have enough praise for Glenn Close in that particular moment
Mhm.
because she didn't say, do, or be anything, and yet she was a perfect performer.
Yep.
Was absolutely blown away just by the simplest of moments, like, and that was one of the quietest moments of the film, one of the stillest moments of the film, and to me, one of the most powerful moments of the film. So when Sandusky sees Randy Quaid, that goofy ass fight scene that might be one of my favorite parts of the movie. Like, it was,
They're on the ground, like kicking each other.
yes,
you
they were
know?
like just foot wrestling with
Yeah.
each other and like really into it. And like you see like the whole bar's like, oh my God, Tony, and
Yeah.
all that. And then like once they realize what the fight actually is, they're all
Yeah.
just standing there like, oh, come on.
Right.
But then the gun flies out of Randy Quaid's belt. Actual sympathy for the bureaucrats. Oh, I actually felt sympathy for bureaucrats.
Right, because yeah, and that was, again, let's bring it home. Like, this was a full tiered thing. You got your acting performance from Jason Alexander, you got the really good lines written by Koepp, and you got the solid direction from Howard on this one. Like, it
Mhm.
all came together to really say, like he's a mess. This guy is a mess. This job has ruined him, and McDougal's not making it any
Yeah,
better.
his wife. What is it? Is
My wife and children are afraid to
yeah,
go to,
my children are afraid to go to school. My wife
my,
cries when she reads the paper. Well, at least she
yeah,
bought it. Like, and
right,
that was the
exactly, yeah.
jokes that he was saying.
The man's got a gun pointed at you, and you're cracking jokes. This is just Tuesday for McDougal. I'm telling you.
So where I started straight up scream laughing, a bullet came through the wall. Why did a bullet come through the wall? And then
Yeah.
Randy Quaid.
Yep.
Like, to get to the other side? Like, just
Yep.
how happy he was to say that too. Like,
Yep. he's
great moments. Great moments.
Mid dialing the phone for an ambulance. He stops to crack that joke and then goes back to dialing the phone. Like, that's.
It was perfect. It was
Yep.
perfect. The juxtaposition between the two gurney scenes. Marissa Tomei going into labor, emergency labor. They need a C-section. All of this
Yep.
stuff is happening. Then you cut to Glenn Close coming in, and they're talking about, what are you gonna do this weekend? I was thinking about doing this and like that. And she's like, I need to call Chuck, and they're like, yeah, shut up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, lady, like, and I love it too because the doctor's even all like, "Lady, you've been shot. Like, you need to. You're not
You don't
calling
need to
anybody."
call anybody. Like, you've been shot.
Yeah,
But I do like the fact that she won because I did enjoy the happy ending. Like that, just I like that. I
right.
wanted the happy ending. That's what I wanted. Um, the tension building scene of the anesthesia and them needing to and them counting down and how close Marissa Tomei was to dying on the table. Like all of this,
Hmm.
I wasn't expecting it. And throughout the entire movie, I was hoping that she wasn't going to go into labor. I really just wanted this to be a day on the life of.
Right,
So when she went into labor, I was disappointed. But
and that, and
at
yeah,
the end of the total movie, I'm not like it didn't break anything for me, and it it did
that is a
land.
thing. Yeah, that's an interesting because that's because pregnancy has always been another Chekhov's gun in the movies. If there
Yeah,
is a pregnant character, that character is going to go into the labor at the least convenient time. That's how it always is. But it was in this case done really well.
it
Like
was.
it was
It was.
like it wasn't just a we're just throwing this in here to complicate things. In fact, quite the opposite. Henry's already been fired from his fucking job and he's going home defeated only to have this whole new emergency like right dropped right in his lap.
So here's another thing that I know why they put it in there, but in like real world doesn't work this way. Uh, Robert Duvall was at the hospital for the gunshot, and he wound up in the waiting room with Michael Keaton. The
Yeah, these are two totally separate wings of the hospital.
yes, that like, and so when he asked him like, "What are you doing here?" Like, so nobody called Robert Duvall, anything like that, and he just wound up going over to the NICU and just
To
seeing
have a
what's going on
cigarette.
over there. Like that moment, like I wish that Robert Duvall would have been summoned there for or like by Keaton or something, or maybe Keaton was going to get a Coke and ran into him or something like.
Or so,
But
yeah.
having it go
That would have
that
made more
way,
sense if he went go looking for a Coke. That would have
it
been
would have,
perfect.
it would have, and but having it go that way, it did bother me a bit. Um, oh right, the World Trade Center. That was that point.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Sunrise in
this
New
is what I
York.
was going to
Yeah.
talk about Glenn Close earlier. I didn't want to answer it then, but I'll answer it now. This moment where she's reading the newspaper and then she tells someone to go get her own, that is the most in character thing that she could have possibly done for that moment because she is all about the paper needs to make money to survive.
True. Okay. That's fair. Yep.
So I actually that might have been my favorite moment of hers was when she told like when she put that smile
The
on her
nurse, yeah.
face and told her to go get her own or go
Go
buy
buy
her
her
own.
own. Yep.
Like that was like the only moment where Glenn Close was actually a good character in the financial aspect of this story instead of a nuisance character for the
Right.
financial
Okay.
aspect of the story. And it literally ended exactly 24 hours from when the title sequence ended.
Yep.
After the cold open with the two boys and the crime and all of that. And Michael
And
Keaton right back in bed with
yep.
clothes on again.
Again, yep. But
Yep.
this time with his, completely anesthetized, doped up wife, and the baby's not there. The baby's still in the nick, but
Mm-hmm.
it's them. It's them there together. Hasn't told her yet that he's been fired.
I don't think he was.
It's that's a tough one. Like it's a
But they
big
changed
maybe.
it though. They changed it. So
They
like,
changed it, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's got his job back. He
I
did.
mean, he did get into a fight with
Yeah,
his boss.
he did kind of sort of elbow Alicia in the face. Maybe not intentionally, but it happened. He did kind of lie to Chuck to get the keys to stop the presses. That's a really big no-no.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually quoted that he talked to Alicia, and
Yeah.
yeah, he did lie about that. So he may not have a job. That is a good point.
Yep.
But that day's edition sold, I guarantee it sold more than any other edition that entire year,
That's true.
probably the year before.
So it's probably a 50-50 whether or not Henry actually has a job,
Yeah.
which, interestingly enough, would absolutely resolve his conflict with Marnie, because now she has to go back to work. He can stay home with he can stay
I didn't
home
think
with the
about that.
kid. Yeah, he can stay home with the kid because he's now been fired. She can go back to work. She's gonna be happier than a pig in shit when she gets the news.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, and also, I mean, she really did show that she was damn good at her job.
Damn good at her
Because
job.
a
Loved her
lot of
job.
like everything that she did, Michael Keaton was just right there for and all that. Everything that she wasn't a part of, Michael Keaton was frustrated. He's like, wait, you were wearing your press badge? You don't wear your press badge. Wait, you went to City Hall? No, you go to the precinct. Like
Yeah.
everybody else, he had to like course correct. Marissa Tomei, he did not have to.
No.
So
Yeah.
I
She knew
I do see
yeah.
her as being absolutely. I do. I really. I mean, I don't have enough good things to say about Marissa Tomei in this performance.
It really, yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's one of the things that kind of gets me is that there's so much underappreciatedness. Like this is one of Marissa Tomei's best roles by far.
Yep.
You know, it
Hands
is,
down.
and I mentioned this last week. It is, in my opinion, Randy Quaid's best role he's ever done. But I feel like The
Yeah.
Paper is a movie like that. Because you could go back. Well, I mean, you just
Actually,
talked about how you did.
you are correct. I watched it last night when I got up this morning. I kicked it on again, and I went about a half hour into it, and I had to stop. And I went and I laid down, and I just hung out with the dogs for a little bit because the amount of notes that I was starting to take in the first half hour of this,
So
I
much.
had to stop. I had to dial
So we
it back. I had to cross a bunch of stuff out because I'm like, we wound up going for 2.5 hours. But if I would have went with my original like notes, it probably would have already like I don't think we would even be done yet.
So you got, yeah, like I said, most movies you have your A story and B story. Usually the A story is your main storyline. The
This
B
one goes
story
up
is
to
the
K.
yeah, you got your love interest. So we got the A story, which is the Williamsburg shooting and the story around that. You get your B story, which is Marissa Tomei, essentially, and how he's failing his marriage with her.
Well, Marissa Tomei has 3 stories just on herself. There's the
That's true.
pregnancy. There's her wanting to do some stuff with the reporting
She's
and
getting
all of
stir
that.
crazy.
And
Yep.
then her missing her coworkers.
Yep.
Like,
Then you got Alicia's whole side story, her whole journey of just trying to get someone to recognize the fact that she's the genius holding things together and can't get anybody to do that. You got Bernie's his cancer diagnosis and trying to reconcile with his daughter has nothing to do with anything else that's going on, but also the weird thing at the same time
but it's a day in the life of.
it's a day in the life of, and it gives us Bernie's character, and also is the reason why he's bonding with Sandusky right before the fight. So it's not a useless side story. It is the reason he's there.
I think if there is any useless side story, it is Phil's chair.
And even then it's not useless. It's because it's got
funny.
the best payoff out of all of them. Yeah, when he picks up that stool and is like, "It's not funny, guy," like that's one of the funniest moments in the movie. Yeah. You got let's see what else we get. Okay, so we got another McDougal and Sandusky. We got Henry and the Coke machines. We've got whatever's going on with the air conditioning in that building. That's a whole epic tale in and of itself.
Thank you for actually you only yeah. Okay, so
that problem's over there.
When it comes out, when Michael Keaton comes out and there's the 2 guys that are working on something that's standing up on the table, do you know what they're working on?
The 2 guys standing on the table
outside of...
They're not working on the air...
No, they're not working on the air conditioning. They might be playing like they were on it. They were like... They're doing they were working on the rail for the opening tracking shot of the movie.
So you think the air conditioning bit was thrown in to cover for the fact they accidentally got crew in the shot?
No, you can see that rail that's holding the camera for the opening tracking shot. You can actually see that a few times through the movie.
That's pretty good.
So when I went and they were working on that, I was like, did they just shoot the crew being in the movie? And I think they actually did.
And so they do a whole like, oh, there's a bunch of people who are working on the air conditioning to cover for it. I mean, it's clever. There's worse ways to do that.
So Ron Howard went to an actual paper and he did a tour and all that. And a lot of the background dialogue is just based off of he was walking through this place and he heard people talking about a catty coworker and all this shit. And just as he was walking through this place, he caught like 50 stories that were happening all at the same time just by going through the building one time for the tour. And that was why all of the like 20 side storylines and everything like that, because he really wanted this to be authentic.
Right. Yeah.
And what I found out while I was researching this movie was journalists the world over love this movie for its accurate representation of how this went. So I just got to give Ron Howard and David Koepp major
so
props.
Nobody's heard of this movie except for me and the world's journalists. I would like to say to the world's journalists,
I wanted to bring something.
Why didn't you tell? I want to say to the world's journalists, then why haven't you told anybody about this movie? I've been doing all the work.
You think they would, write that in every once
in
a while?
They're journalists, think so.
Yeah. But you are completely right. I found a channel where the guy who does the movie reviews has like something like 10,000 subscribers, and this video had 89. I was the 83rd viewer
of the one about the paper.
Yeah.
Wow.
On a channel that had over 10,000 subscribers.
Nobody knows this movie, way more love. Well, and I think part
but
of
also
the thing,
Ron Howard hasn't watched this movie since the premiere.
And well, it's interesting. I've noticed. I was thinking about it and asking myself, because I have had kind of like my deep thought moments of why of all the things, why are these movies constantly coming back, and a movie like this and others are constantly forgotten for some reason, and I don't know why. There could be a million reasons why. This movie has not been syndicated. I saw it for the first time on HBO when I was a kid, in like the year after it came out on theaters. And then it's always like, back then in the movies, it's like you get the movie in theaters, and then about 6 months to a year later, it will come out on home video. And for about a month to 2 months before it comes out on home video, you'd see it on the pay channels. It would be on HBO, Showtime, those.
Pay-per-view, sure, yeah.
Right. So I saw it for the first time on HBO back when that happened, and that literally was the last time I've ever seen it anywhere other than my own DVD copy. It's never been on Netflix. It's never been on TCM.
Interestingly enough, one of the reviewers that I came across, they couldn't even get an English copy of it. The cover of it was in German.
Really? That's weird. Mm-hmm. I know for a fact it is for sale on Amazon, so that throws me.
It got me too. I didn't know what the deal with that was, but it was an American person who was reviewing the paper, and he said he found it in he hadn't seen, he forgot about the movie completely, and he found it in a bin, and it was in German title.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, which the paper in German is about 50 characters long. So I definitely give this, God, I would actually call this a must-watch. Like, as far as going into perfect films and things like that, I would toss this up. It wouldn't go, I mean, I'm going to be honest, it's not going to go anywhere near my favorites list, but it is a technical, damn near perfect film.
Yeah. If you are anybody who likes,
it might be my favorite performance of Marissa Tomei, though.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And it's a lot of favorites for me. It's like I said, it's my favorite Randy Quaid. It is my favorite Marissa Tomei. It's also, and I know this is controversial, it's kind of also my favorite Michael Keaton.
Oh, get out of here! I knew you were going to say that, but no, come on.
It's true. It's true. I know. Yes, I have seen Spider-Man. Yes, I've seen Birdman. Yes, I've seen Batman. Yes, I've seen Mr. Mom. This is still
yes, you've seen Multiplicity. Yes, you've seen Beetlejuice. Yes, I mean, it's Michael Keaton. I mean, come Like,
I know it's a really
oof.
really tough call, but that's it for me. It's like if you were gonna ask me like what one Michael Keaton movie could you sit down and watch forever? For me, it's this one. I could watch this movie for 3 times as long as I could watch Beetlejuice. Easy.
I don't know if I would ever get sick of Multiplicity.
I mean that is pretty good,
I mean,
but still.
have like Michael Keaton playing himself as a simpleton who is just over the moon about having sex. I'm sorry, that might be the best scene that
I
might be
mean,
the funniest scene he's ever done.
Michael Keaton may be one of the most underrated actors. Like
Do you think
the
he's underrated? I feel
I
like
do
every
think
time
he's
he's in a
underrated.
movie, it's a box office smash.
Yeah, but like people don't talk about him the same way they would talk about like they've he's never had his Chris Hemsworth time. Like even when he was Batman, it was not Michael Keaton is Batman. It was Michael Keaton is Batman. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Because I think you're right because I can't think of anything that actually I don't have an actual argument for that. But anytime that Michael Keaton is in something, I'm watching.
yeah, he nails it every time.
Like I said, because I've done 3 weeks of you with some iffy movies, I'm gonna go ahead and give you just an absolute guaranteed banger.
Okay.
Next week, I'm gonna have you covering The Bone Collector, starring Denzel Washington, Angelina Jolie, and again Ed O'Neill.
Okay. That's right. Yeah, I did mention last week I had not seen that. Okay.
Yes.
Bone Collector. All
So
right.
we
So you've
are.
got Freeway. I've got the Bone Collector. All right.
Yes, sir. All right. So we'll bring a close to episode 2 of Heist.